If you're looking for a quick fix, all you need to do is to make a selection like this. Same on the other side. Click on Generate a Fill and type in wings. Click on Generate and just pray to the gods of Red Bull. There you go. Done. If this works for you, fantastic. However, if you're looking to composite and match high quality wings, create proper shadows, and apply dramatic lighting, it would be my honor to show you how. We'll also learn how to add texture and color to give it a warm, painterly feel. So without any further ado, let us add some wings without Red Bull. Back in the magical world of Photoshop, and if you wish to go ahead and download this photo and follow along, you know what to do. Check the links in the description. Before we even get into Photoshop, the first step is finding the wings. There are lots of places you can look for it, like Shutterstock, Adobe Stock. So I'm going to start at Adobe Stock and just type in wings. Now the first criteria I set on the left hand side is that I turn off generated AI results. So let's scroll down and exclude generative AI, because if I wanted something AI generated, why would I go this route anyway? Let's scroll up, and also we don't want any illustrations, we want photos right here, so let's check that. And there are amazing wings right here that you can use. Now if you're looking for free wings, which makes me crave wings for some reason, anyway, if you're looking for photo wings, you can look at Pexels, but here you wouldn't find wings that are isolated. If you're really looking for high quality wings that are isolated, you have to pay for it. There is no other way to say it. Maybe you can also look at freepik.com and search for isolated wings. See if you get anything. But if you have a look at the results, most of them are illustrations. If you search for photos right here, there aren't many. And the ones that are available right here, they are premium. So this is an expense we need to make. I'm going to leave links to some unedible wings in the description, which you can use for reference. Starting with the first order of compositing, let us separate the subject. With the background layer selected, press Ctrl or Command J. And before we mask the subject out, let us convert this layer into a smart object by going to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, so that whatever filter we apply later, we can change the values. Select any of these three tools right here, and at the top, Select Subject is going to show up. You can improve the mask later, that is up to you, and it does a pretty good selection. Now, with the selection active, simply click on the Mask button. There you have the subject separated. Let us name this layer Subject. Now it is time for us to place the wings properly. Maybe with some buffalo sauce and ranch. Let's drag and drop it right here. It's making my mouth water. Let's adjust the size, and the wings are going to be behind the subject, right? So let's bring the wings layer behind the subject layer, and then you can adjust it to your liking. Press Ctrl or Command T, make it larger or smaller, or adjust the position. Hit Enter or Return. Now of course we need to mask in the wings, so hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the eye of the wings layer to keep it solo. And now with the regular quick selection tool, you can use any selection method of your choice, and since it has a black background, this will be easy to mask. Done. Now click on the mask button right here. It's masked out. You can always improve the mask later. Let us hold the Alt key or the Option key again and click on this eye again to turn everything back on. Now it is time for us to match the wings, and the easiest way to do it is with curves. So with the angel wings layer selected, click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. You also want to limit it just to the angel wings, so click on this button so that whatever changes you make will be limited just to the wings. Now let us try automatically matching it, and how can we do that? With the help of eyedroppers right here. So first of all, let's double click on the white point eyedropper and set its color to the brightest point of her clothes. Let's take this color right here, but it's not sampling anything. You know why? Because the mask is selected right here. Hit cancel. You want to make sure the symbol of the adjustment layer is selected, and then double click on the white point eyedropper. And you want to make sure sample size is 3x3, sample all layers is selected, and then let's sample this one. It's fine. Hit OK. All right, do you want to save it as defaults? No, other images would mess up when you apply curves. You don't want to do that. Now you want to click on the brightest point of the wings. I'm guessing this is the brightest. Let's click, and there you go. The bright points automatically match. What about the dark areas? Let's double click on the black point eyedropper. Now let us find the darkest area of the cloth. Maybe we're going to take a sample of this one. Hit OK for now. No, we don't want to save it as defaults. Trying to find a similar dark area in the wings. Let's try clicking here. But I do feel it is getting too bluish. So let's try some other areas. Wow, that's too dark. All right. This is nice, but we do need to reduce the blues, so we can do some manual control as well. Let's go to the blue channel right here and take the blues even further down. Now we are getting closer and closer. There you go. Now what about the midtones? Yes, you can use the gray point eyedropper, but it's not always a good match. So from here, I believe it's much easier to do it manually. So in the blue channel, let's try taking the midtones down to match it even more. And if we do that, it becomes more greenish. So now let's go to the green channel and take it down as well. Now we are getting so darn much closer, and I think it is a good place to be. So here's the before, it's a completely different element, and here is the after, it's getting closer. They say without a shadow, things don't exist, and for the wings to exist, we need a little bit of shadow. Let's create it. Make a selection of the subject by holding the Control or Command. We already have a mask right here. Let's click on it. Selection activated, and now create a solid color adjustment layer by clicking on the adjustment layer icon and then choose solid color. Let us choose black because that's what the shadow color is going to be. Hit OK. Now let's simply move it with the move tool selected right here to the right, just like so. Now we want to limit it just to the wings. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the line between these two layers, and there you have your shadow. Fantastic, isn't it? No, we need to make some adjustments. First of all, let's zoom in and keep it possibly this way. Look at where the light is coming from. It's coming from the left and a little bit at the top. So adjust the position that way. Also, we are assuming this area is closer, so we may have to mask certain things out. So with the brush selected, black as the foreground color, you can always press D to set the foreground and the background color to black and white, and make sure the mask is selected right here. Just paint some of the areas with black. What we are attempting to do is carving out the shadow according to the shape of the wings. You can also introduce some more right here with white painted. Now this is a nice base, but it still needs something. So let's go to the properties of the mask. So with the mask selected, open up the properties right here. If you cannot see it, go to window and you want to make sure properties is checked. Just increase the feather. That's all. It blurs the mask. You can always bring it back, of course, and that is the advantage of doing it this way. So let's keep it at about 200. And there you have it. You can of course control the opacity. So I'm going to decrease it to about, what do you say? Let's keep it 60. 60 is nice. Now the shadow right here looks okay, but right there, it's not enough. So let's create another solid color. Hit OK. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I to invert the mask. Again, hold the Alt key or the Option key. Click on the line between these two layers to limit it again to the wings. And now let's paint with white only in this area. Press X to toggle between the foreground and the background color. My parents taught me as an artist that always make the outline first and then fill on the inside later. Now for this one, again, let's increase the feather. Let's go for 120. And also decrease the opacity of this one, maybe at around 76, but I believe we can erase it a little bit from here. So let's paint in black right here. Now that looks so darn much better. Now if you want, and if you want to take it to the extremes of matching, you can also do some dodging and burning on the wings. Trust me, it's not that hard. All you need to do is to create a blank new layer by clicking on this button and also limit that to the wings by holding the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two layers. Let's name this D and B, dodge and burn. Simply take the brush, take a soft round brush with the foreground color black and white, zoom out a lot and change the blend mode of this layer from normal to soft light. Also, decrease the flow to about 1% and just start painting with white and black, depending upon which areas you want to make brighter and which areas you want to make darker. For example, I want to darken this area, so I'm going to paint there with black. And if you want to brighten an area, paint that area with white. One of the things you can do to make it easy for you to dodge and burn is select the topmost layer and then click on the adjustment layer icon and then create another solid color adjustment layer. Keep it black, gray, white, anything with zero saturation, hit OK and change the blend mode to color. This takes away all the colors and keeps you from being distracted by it. Now let's get back to dodging and burning and let's do the rest of the areas. Let's have a look at the before and after. Let's zoom in a bit. So here's the before. See, all of these areas are just blown out, and here is the after. The shadows are just so much cleaner and it's matching so much better. Now let's turn off this luminosity check layer. This was just to guide you. With this layer selected, press the delete key. Now before we move forward, there is one last shadow we need to create for a dramatic effect, and that is the shadow of the subject in the background. So to select the whole thing, select the topmost layer, and with any of these three tools selected, click on Select Subject. You want to make sure Sample All Layers is checked. Click on it, and it does an OK selection. Let's add the rest of the areas right here. Great. Now this shadow needs to be where? Under the wings, right? Because the wings do exist. So just under the wings, with the background layer selected, click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose solid color again. You can choose black for the shadow, or let's go for a dark brown color because we're going to make it painterly later. We can change this at any time. Hit OK and simply move it with the move tool right here. Simply move it a little bit right here. I know this looks bad, but trust me on this. Let's zoom in a bit to adjust the shadow position. This seems to be about right. And now the shadow is always darkening stuff, so we need to change the blend mode from normal to what? Multiply. Now, of course, the shadow is harsh, so how do we make it soft? We can add Gaussian blur right here, or if you want to keep it non-destructive, open up the properties of the mask like we did with the other shadows and just increase the feather right here. Somewhere around, not that much, somewhere around 332 would work. There you have it. Let's decrease it to about 66. It's a nice number to be at. Now we have got all the depth that we need, but we also don't want this blue color in the background wall. So to fix it, create a hue saturation layer as well, just above the background layer. Click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose hue saturation. And just take down the saturation like so. This will be affecting just the background, but just to be sure, you can select the topmost layer again and select the quick selection tool. Click on Select Subject. Select the whole thing again like so. Scroll down, and in the mask right here, with the foreground color black, press Alt Backspace or Option Delete to ensure that that area is not affected anyway. Sometimes the hair is affected, it becomes gray, and it doesn't look right. Press Ctrl or Command D to deselect. And if you're doing this anyway, why not just make the shadow gray here as well? Let's do that for now. The next step is adding some dramatic lights to the backdrop. So again, let us create our favorite, the fantastic Curves Adjustment layer. Now we want to brighten only certain areas and have a look around the corners. Those areas were too dark, so we need to brighten those as well. So select the mask right here, press Ctrl or Command I, take the brush, take white as the foreground color, and with a soft round brush and flow and opacity back at 100, just paint certain areas. You can also decrease the flow and paint some other areas as well. And since the light is coming from the left-hand side, maybe we can paint a little more here as well. That looks fantastic. Here's the before and here is the after. At this point, you can also add some additional highlights, maybe to the hair, to the eyes. So let's do that. So just above the subject layer, we may want to create more curves adjustment layers. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. Again, just take it up like that. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I, and also we want it to be limited just to the subject. So click on this button, and this is for the hair. Let's name this layer to hair. We should have also named other layers anyway. And with white as the foreground color, with a soft round brush selected, just dab on the highlight areas with white, like that. But it's creating a brand new layer. You want to make sure the mask is selected. Let's do it with white. It's not much. Increase the flow to 100. There you have it. Maybe in this area slightly, maybe here a little bit. So we added some highlights. To make it even more realistic, you can double click on the right hand side of this layer and take it away from the dark areas by taking the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. This is very harsh, so hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider to break it apart and break it apart like so. There you have it. Done. What about the eyes? So create one more Curves Adjustment layer, take it up as well. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. Also, click on this button to limit it just to the subject. Let's name this layer Eyes and take the brush. White as the foreground color, make sure the mask is selected. Then with white as the foreground color, just dab on the opposite side of the catch light. So maybe right there. There you go. Similarly, on this eye, there you go with some highlights. Erase the extras if you have to. And done. Great. Some highlights for the hair, highlights for the eyes. Now the composite is ready for texture and color to give it a painterly feel. Let's start by adding a texture. So I have this texture right here. I'm just going to drag it and drop it into Photoshop. By the way, I also got it from Adobe Stock. You can also find texture in Shutterstock and Envato Elements. And if you want to get creative, you can also take pictures of any interesting texture you see. Let's make it larger. This is fine. Hit enter or return. Now you can try different blend modes. I'm just going to change it to maybe overlay. This is fine. But you know, overlay is very intense. There is a milder version of overlay. You know what we call it? Soft light. So let us change the blend mode to soft light. That works better. But we can have a little more contrast with the texture. So create a curves adjustment layer by clicking on the adjustment layer icon, choosing curves, and also limiting it just to the texture by clicking on this button. Now let's take this slider to the right. There you go. Now we have more texture, but the color is distracting too much. So let's take away the color for now. We can add colors later. So create a hue saturation adjustment layer by clicking on the adjustment layer icon and then choosing hue saturation. And take down the saturation. Now we want it to be limited just to the texture as well. So click on this button. We don't want a monochrome right now. Now to make the image more dramatic, you can also add a spotlight. And an easy way to do that is through gradients. So let us pick the gradient tool right here. And you can pick a simple white to black gradient like so. By the way, you can always press X to toggle between the foreground and the background color and pick the first one for foreground to background. Now you want to make sure you have the radial gradient selected right here, not the linear, the radial, and just simply drag in a gradient like so. By default, it must be something like this for you. Just squeeze it by using this point right here so that we have a nice spotlight like so. Now simply change the blend mode from normal to soft light and there you have your spotlight. So nice, isn't it? So I'm going to keep it right here, keep it like this, and make it narrower like so. But it's too extreme. So how do we reduce the extremeness of it? Well, you can change the colors of this gradient. So double click right here. We can set it to a grayish color. And we are actually setting up the brightness by choosing how light gray we want it to be. So let's keep it this much, hit OK. And for this one, double click right here and set it accordingly. Maybe this will work. Hit OK and it's done. Select the move tool. Wonderful spotlight. Here's the before, here's the after. Now it is time for us to add the backdrop painterly texture. So here I have this painted backdrop. So I'm just going to drag and drop it right here. I also got it from Adobe Stock. You can also find similar one in Shutterstock and so many more websites. And this is easier to find. So let's make it bigger like this. And maybe I'm going to stretch it a little bit. Let's keep it this way. Hit enter or return. There you have it. Now let us try changing the blend mode to soft light first. Not enough intense. How about overlay? I like this a lot. But there is one problem with this. You see the fabric right here, which I don't want to see right now. And all over the face, it's not as good. So how do we remove the fabric and not disturb the colors? Simple, blur it. Let's go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. Let's keep on increasing the blur and stop at the point where the fabric goes away. So this is 0.1, this is 2, 3, 4. At about 10, it just goes away. Hit OK. And there you go. Gone. Now I recommend zooming out, pressing Ctrl or Command T for this one, and just moving it around to see which areas look good to you. And then going from there. I'm just going to make it a little more flatter like so and keep it like this. It looks nicer that way. Hit enter or return. And there you have it. Looks good. Now it is not looking so great on the subject. So let's remove it from the subject. We already have a mask right here. So hold the Alt key, the Option key, click and drag and drop this mask to this painted backdrop texture. It's gone from the subject. But now we need to match the subject with the background too. One of the easiest ways to add warmth is knowing the right color lookup, and you can use color lookup to match as well. So let us create a color lookup adjustment by clicking on the adjustment layer icon and choosing color lookup. And you have to know which ones do what. I've used color lookup so much that I have an idea that edgy amber is great for this one. So let's change it to edgy amber. Now, of course, this is too much and we only wanted it on the subject. So first of all, hold the Alt key or the Option key and drag and drop this mask right here to the color lookup. Yes, we want to replace it. And this is the opposite of mask that we wanted. So select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I to invert it. Now this is too much, of course. So let's decrease the opacity to about where it matches the most. 40 is good. You can also do further adjustments at this point. So create another curves adjustment layer and also have the same mask. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag and drop right here. Hit yes. If you want more yellows, you can go to the blue channel. So let's open up the properties of the adjustment layer by clicking on the symbol. Let's go to the blue channel and maybe take it down slightly, very slightly. Then let's go to the red channel and take it up to match it even more. zoom out a lot just to see what you're doing. So let's take up the reds slightly and let's go to the green channel, and you can take it down to add a little bit magenta. There you go. We have gotten so far. You want to have a look at the before and after? So here is the before and here is the after. Completely different league. Now we can add a little more contrast to this, overall contrast, by creating another curves adjustment layer and just taking the slider on the right to the left like so. There you have it. Overall contrast, before, after. Now if you want, you can also remove the excessive darks from the surrounding areas. So let us create another curves adjustment layer and just take it up like so. This much should be enough. Just focus on the dark areas. About this much. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. Take the brush with white as the foreground color and the mask selected. Just paint over the dark areas, that's all. You can create multiple layers, that's up to you. Let's create one more. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I, and let's just focus on this particular area. There you go. This is looking good. Now the backdrop is looking really flat. To add more shine to the backdrop, why not create one more curves adjustment layer? Click on the adjustment layer icon, choose curves. At the moment, we are working as an artist. There is no right or wrong way of doing things. If you feel like this needs to be done, do it. If you feel like that needs to be done, do that. And I'm going to take this slider on the right to the left. This adds so much more contrast to the backdrop. Focus on the backdrop. And for the dark areas, create a point on the left-hand side and just take it down. Look at that contrast. But we only want it in the backdrop. So do we have a backdrop mask? We do, right here. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag and drop it right here. Yes, we want to replace it. And just look at that contrast. Oh my gosh, this looks amazing. Now at this point, I feel that this area is way too bright and it's stealing the attention from this subject. So how do we fix that? We need to go back to the gradient fill where we added the spotlight, click on it, select the gradient tool, and maybe, just maybe, we can bring it right here. All right, and adjust it this way. There you go. You can also adjust the colors at this point, and to adjust any color, just double click on it and set it to whatever you like. So I'm going to set it to this much and hit OK. There you go. This looks so much better. Now, to be honest, this will never end. You can just keep going. Now, let's add one final texture before we take a break. So let's go to our Finder. Here is another texture I would like to add. Let's drag it and drop it and make it larger like so. Let us try both overlay and soft light. I like that Adobe has added previews lately. Let's go with soft light. You can always reduce that amount with opacity or with curves. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. And also we need to limit it to the texture. Click on this button. And if you feel the texture is too dark, take the point on the left hand side and just take it up like so. I'm going to keep it this way. And this just looks so darn good. Now, one of the biggest questions I get for work like this is how do you figure out what to do after what? What are the steps? How do you figure out the steps? And the truth is, I don't know the steps beforehand. Apart from the general stuff like you need to first separate the subject and add the wings under. Apart from those general stuff, everything is just artistic. You do what you feel like. So work as an artist and try to work non-destructively so that you can always go back and change stuff later. I have to give a big shout out to Leon Johnson for the idea for this video. So I was at Carolina Photo Expo teaching a Photoshop class, and Leon Johnson also had a class where he was teaching how to capture painterly portraits. And his photos, which you can see right here, had me mesmerized. They were amazing. So I went to talk to him and he was so kind enough to show me the behind the scenes of his Photoshop workflow. It was fantastic and it was incredible to see how many textures he had added. I added just 2 or 3, but his was way more than that. So you should definitely check out his work for inspiration, or maybe learn from him if you can. So that's all for this video, and with a slight retouching, here is the overall before and after. Time for us to do a quick little recap. First of all, first order of compositing, we separated the subject like so, and then we added the wings. And then we matched the wings with the curves adjustment layer and added some shadows. Then we took away the backdrop colors and added shadow of the subject in the backdrop. Also added some lighting effects. On top of that, if you want, you can add some highlights to the hair and the eyes. Then we added this texture. I didn't quite like the color, so we took that away. Then we added the spotlight effect with the gradient tool, remember? So if we activate it, you can move it around and change it at any point in time. On top of that, we added that warm painted backdrop. but the subject was not matching, so we matched that as well. Then a lot of curves adjustment layer just for added contrast. And then the last texture, like so. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss any other future tips, tricks or tutorials. I would like to take this moment to thank all of these nice and amazing people for supporting this channel on Patreon and helping keep PiXimperfect free for everybody forever. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.
What can I do?